Everybody, thank you very much for watching. My name is Don. I want to do a video about the Anunnaki, and who claim in ancient Sumerian text by Zechariah Sitchin to be our creators. I want to show you, but that's a lie, and that they just created themselves but they were just fallen angels, or stroke Nephalim, the giants. They were created themselves. The true God is a spirit. I think John 4:24 it says in the Bible. You can check for yourself. So God is a spirit. And it says here, so therefore we must worship him in spirit and in truth. John 4:24. The true God in heaven, as it says, is a spirit, and he created earthly and spiritual beings. It says in Colossians 1:16, for through him is God, through Christ, his Son, the only begotten Son, created everything in heaven and on earth, the seen and unseen, including the spiritual powers, lords, rulers and authorities. God created the whole universe through him and for him. In John 3:16 it says, God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son. He was the only one, that the Spirit, God is a spirit, and he made only Christ. Before he came to earth, he was a spiritual being like God. That's the only one he made, and through Christ, before he came to earth, he made everything in heaven and earth, it says there, the seen and unseen things. Spiritual realm, spiritual beings, physical, like us, including the spiritual powers, lords, rulers and authorities. So, you see, in John, as I said, John 4:24, God is a spirit. And he created everything, but like it says there, the angels were created themselves. You know, in Job 38:7, they're called morning stars, because they were the first to be created. The angels, the spiritual beings, were created before us. So they're the morning stars. So the angels were created by God, just like the physical realm. So they're not gods. They're like God, but they're not gods. They are, what can I say, they're like the image of God, because he's a spirit. So they're spirits. They're not gods, but it's just they went bad, you see. And it says in Genesis, which I will read to you, they went bad themselves because God gave them gave us free will. It gave the angels free will. Unfortunately, they sided with Satan. So, you know, they had free wills and made themselves gods, the fallen angels. You see, the Bible story in Genesis talks about, you know, the sons of God, angels, and they went with mortal women. Let me see. Genesis. It goes on to say in Genesis 6, now it came about that when men started to grow in numbers on the surface of the ground and daughters were born to them, then the sons of the true God began to notice the daughters of men, that they were good looking, the human women. So, you know, the sons of God are the angels, and they came down and went taking wives for themselves, namely all whom they chose. And that God, Yahweh, my spirit shall not act towards man indefinitely. And it goes on to say, and then it says the Nephalim, the giants, proved to be in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of the true God, as the angels, continued to have relations with the daughters of men. and they bore sons to them, and they were mighty ones who were of old, and the men of fame. So they became, so the sons of God, well, even it shows that Son of God, Christ is called the Son of God because he was once, an angel in heaven. So they came down and had relations with women, and their children became giants. See? And it says in Jude 1:6, and the angels did not keep their original position, but forsook their own proper dwelling place. And then God has reserved for eternal bonds under dense darkness for the judgment of the great day. So they've been held in eternal reserve with eternal bonds for judgment, because they left their natural original position and forsook their proper dwelling place. So you see, so it goes on. So as I said, so the biblical story of Genesis, the sons of God, Neph went with the mortal women, and their offspring became giants, hybrids, demigods. One of physical or one of spiritual. They have very similar ancient legends, right? Elsewhere, like the Lost Book of Enoch speaks of 200 watchers, fallen angels. This is extra information from Genesis that has been removed. In the Lost Book of Enoch, they talk about 200 watchers that came down, the angels, and went with earthly women and begot giants, and gave them advanced wisdom and knowledge, how to mix roots, how to make metal weapons, all sorts of charms and cosmetics, all sort of astrology, all these bad things, Also in ancient Greek legends, where Uranus, god of heaven, again, god of heaven, went with Gaia, earth goddess. You get the point. This is ancient Greek legend. Uranus, they call him the god of heaven, went down and had relations with Gaia, the earth goddess. I believe she was a female woman, a mortal woman, and they created offspring. Not only the giant Cyclops, Gigantes, but also the 12 Titans. I believe the largest of all the giants. One of the Titans was Kronos, offspring of Uranus, that became the father of Zeus. I believe Zeus was a giant who, with others, ended up having a 10-year war against his father, the Titans, or Kronos. So Clash of the Titans may have some truth in it. Also, these legendary Greek tales of Hercules being a demigod is all true. I believe he was a Nephalim, or giants. That's why he was strong. Demigod because, as I said, angels that fallen angels, wicked angels that came down and took mortal women. In ancient, now I want to talk about the Anunnaki. I did a bit of research, into the origins of the Anunnaki. Zechariah Sitchin, he deciphered the ancient Sumerian text, speaking about the Anunnaki, who they claim created the human race. But I don't believe so. I want to show you that they were partly fallen angel originally, the fallen angels that went with women, and then their offspring were the Nephalim. Alright, this is here. I found it online. Anu, A-N-U, was meant to be, this is the origin of Anunnaki, where the word comes from. It comes from these in relations with Anu and Ki. But first of all, Anu is meant to be a supreme god, an ancestor of all the deities in ancient Mesopotamian religion, a source of all authority for the other gods and all mortal rulers. You know, the one who contains the entire universe. In other words, he was supreme god of all the deities in ancient Mesopotamia, Anu. And he is identified with a north ecliptic pole on or in the Draco constellation. Can you believe that? Draco, the dragon. So you can see where I'm getting at. Anu, they claim, came from the Draco constellation. So up there, I believe Anu was a fallen angel. That's what I believe. He wasn't, you know, an ancient alien god that claimed to be our gods. And also, this is here, so he come from the Draco constellation and a supreme god of all deities in ancient Sumeria. And then Ki, Ki, that he had relations with, was the earth goddess in Sumerian religion. She was the chief consort and wife of the sky god Anu, or An, or Anu. So now you get what I'm saying. Anu was the supreme god, or sky god, and Ki was the earth goddess, or chief consort of Anu. This is where you get Anunnaki. Anu, Ki. That's where you get the word Anunnaki from. So, you understand, so Anu from the heavens, or Draco constellation, a fallen angel, went with earth goddess, or I believe a female, just a mortal woman. And by her consorts, Anu, Ki, both of them, gave birth to the Anunnaki. You understand? You can see how the word Anunnaki can come out of this. Even in the Bible, it talks about Enoch. So I believe that Anunnaki, or the first generation of the Anunnaki, this is it, along with Anu, sons are Enlil and Enki, which constitute the highest divine triad. So obviously they are, I believe, Nephalim, or giants. See, and these Enlil and Enki feature in an ancient Sumerian text on a clay tablet. According to Zechariah Sitchin, it was Enki had a hand in altering the genetic makeup of mankind, man's DNA. It doesn't mean he created us. They messed with our DNA and you know, man's brain. I've done a video about we call it the R complex, reptilian complex. But this is, they altered, according to Enki, altered the genetic makeup of man. So it doesn't mean they're gods, but he would, fallen angel, went with women and produced Anunnaki. I believe they were giants. And the most prominent was Enlil, god of air. Also Enki, you know, in Sumerian legends, as I said, had a hand in altering the DNA. I believe the fallen angels, they're way ahead. They know forbidden knowledge. They partake. They gave the giants, their children, wisdom to, you know, manipulate things. It shows that, you know, as I said, it shows that Anu was part of the fallen angels who had relations with a female woman. They gave birth to giants. I believe that Enlil, Enki, or the first generation of their offsprings were the giants. And it says that in earlier Sumerian writing, Anunnaki are the most powerful deities in the Parthenon. That is, of all the other gods, they were the most powerful. And an interesting point, the Anunnaki were thought to possess extraordinary powers and were often envisioned of being of tremendous size. You see what I mean? It says it quite there. So they were thought to possess extraordinary powers and were often envisioned of being tremendous size. As I said, that Anunnaki were Nephalim or giants because of the union of, fallen angel and earthly women. And they typically wore a melam, M-E-L-A-M, substance which covered them in terrifying splendor. So this melam could be worn, this is it, what for? This substance which covered them, which they called melam, could be worn by heroes, kings, giants or gods, or even demons in the past. The effect of seeing a deity's melam had on a human is described as ni, N-I, means it causes a tingling of the flesh. So it somehow causes people, when they see it, a tingling of the flesh, and probably fear this substance they had. Anunnaki have been associated with, what do you call it, Nibiru. That's what Zechariah Sitchin said. Anunnaki are portrayed as 7 judges who sit before the throne of Era Skygirl in the underworld. So it shows that the Anunnaki are fallen angels. Also in the Epic of Gilgamesh, during the Old Babylonian period, it said that Anunnaki were believed to be it's also believed in the Epic of Gilgamesh that they were the deities of the underworld, while the gods of heaven were known as the Igigi. The ancient Hittites identify generations of gods who had been overthrown and banished to the underworld by younger gods. So it shows it quite clearly in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Anunnaki were Trophic deities of the underworld, and the Hittites, ancient Hittites, identified these generation of gods who were overthrown, listen to that, and banished to the underworld. Where have you heard that? It says it quite clearly in the Bible that fallen angels were banished, as it were, to Tartarus. So I can read it from the scripture. And also this says the Anunnaki are portrayed as 7 judges. Well, Nibiru has, Nemesis, they're associated with, have 7 moons. So, and they're meant to arrive with Nibiru, the red dragon, the Nemesis system. So let me read the scripture about, just like the Anunnaki of the underworld, they were overthrown and banished to the underworld, so too in the Bible, the fallen angels. I'll read it. So I want to read in the Bible to show that these same Anunnaki banished to the underworld is none other than the fallen angels, but they're not gods, but they were created themselves, but they fell bad. In 1 Peter 3:19-20, which says, "In this state also he went as Christ, he went his way and preached to the spirits in prison, who had once been disobedient when the patience of God was waiting in Noah's day, while the ark was being constructed, in which a few people, that is 8 souls, were carried safely through the water. Yet they came before the flood, went with women And this is why the flood happened in Noah's time. Christ, he says here, went to preach to the spirits in prison, because that's where they are now. Just, it sounds exactly like the Anunnaki. So, as I said, in ancient legend, Anu, god of the sky, went with the goddess of the earth, Ki. I believe, as I said, a female mortal. Offspring were, or the oldest Sumerian gods were the giants, you know, Enki, Enlil, and obviously later on they were also giants, I believe. They were giants hybrids. In the Sumerian text, they claim, by Zechariah Sitchin, they claim that, we call it, they created us, a slave race, and they were our gods. But as I said, they just altered our DNA. It's not the same as creating us, as there were humans already on the earth before they came. So they just, you know, there was humans on earth already. I might do another video a bit more about that. But when that Anunnaki came here, or whatever, you know, there was already a humans on earth, because God, the true God of heaven, created us. So they tried to, you know, manipulate the DNA to make, you know, because they needed a slave race that was more compliant. So for all these, so here's a picture of I took of the Sumerian, what do you call it? Sumerian architecture. Well, let me explain before I show you. On the ancient clay tablets, Sumerian tablets, it shows what seems to be a DNA strand, a double helix. How would they know? It's because they manipulated the DNA and gave them, you know, the humans a boost, as it were. But here's a picture of in the middle there. Can you see that? Look in the middle there. It looks like a double helix. That's the DNA strands, as it were, shown on the clay, ancient clay tablets in Sumeria. Each cell, you know, core, each cell of our body, there's a DNA, and in the DNA are in the chromosome strands. So that DNA in every cell, there's a chromosome strand which has a genetic makeup of how we are meant to develop, you know, our eyes, our hair, basically our instructions on how to grow. They may have manipulated mankind. I will show more pictures